Short head originates where? Where does the biceps short head originate? Coracoid process. I heard you. I did.
I was making sure she heard me. She was right next to me, and you were like all the way behind.
No, I heard you. I got you. Okay, brachialis and brachoradialis. Brachialis kind of tucks up underneath your biceps. Brachoradialis, you put your hand in neutral like this, much like you're holding a drink. This muscle specializes in 12-ounce curls. Just say, cough. 12 ounces. Spread. 12-ounce curls. So, we differentiate manual muscle testing these as well. If you're fully supinated here, and you manual muscle test, that's biceps brachii. If I put you in neutral, that's brachoradialis. Again, 12-ounce curls. Now that one's different in that the bulk of that muscle is over the forearm. It originates on the humerus and comes down to the distal radius, hence it being brachoradialis. So if you go here, you'll see it pop up, and that's what it is. So if you put your hand under the lip of the desk and just try to lift up, you'll feel that pop up right there. And then brachialis, if you fully pronate to here and push up, that's helping to isolate the brachialis. So biceps brachii, brachoradialis, brachialis, that will be on the oral.
I have a question.
Yes.
How come they don't let you like pick up stuff when you tear your rotator cuff if it's completely different muscle or you rotate that muscle?
How come they don't let you pick up anything?
Yeah, like they don't let you pick up things over a
Certain weight?
yeah.
Because it's going to fire and require stability. I mean, you don't want people picking up to where they're doing any kind of forward flexion, extension, abduction. They want that thing kind of just staying put. The supraspinatus, which is usually the one that they're repairing anyways, is again responsible for like the first 15 degrees of abduction. So it's not just rotation, but it's also lifting. So if you're picking up too much, you're almost always going to activate that muscle, which is going to put stress on the tendon. Cool?
Yep.
Elbow extension, triceps brachii, so there's 3 heads of the triceps and the anconeus. The anconeus is the funky little muscle in the back. It goes from lateral epicondyle of the humerus to the olecranon in the superior portion of the ulna. I'll give you a picture. It's not a big one. Forearm pronation, we have pronator teres and pronator quadratus. Forearm supination. Others help, but the supinator is the main one. The biceps brachii is actually one of the primary supinators beyond the supinator. As long as if the arm is pronated, it will help to supinate as you can flex, just by the leverage of how it attaches. But it's very much positional in terms of which one's going to help that motion. And so if we were just to take off the top layer of skin, that's pretty much what we would see. Biceps coming down and in. There's an aponeurosis, so a bit of tendon sheath that comes across as well, which inserts actually into the fascia that goes above. Here's pronator teres coming diagonally across. And then veins and arteries. Brachial artery coming up and underneath. And the median nerve. Median nerve comes across more across the top. The ulnar nerve is going to be your funny bone. And then the radial nerve actually goes on the lateral side. So median goes through the top through the middle. Ulnar is funny bone on the medial side, and then lateral side is going to be radial. If we resect a bunch, we can start seeing other things. Supinator sits buried down below. Okay, sorry. Radial nerve is lateral side, but it's not behind the elbow, it's on top. It's buried within the musculature. So, if you take your hand and you put it distal to the joint itself, and you flex up and down, you flex and extend your forearm, your wrist, you can feel which muscle sets begin to contract. So you've got a common flexor origination point and a common extensor origination point. So most of our flexors are all going to stem from the same general area, the same origin. So again, there's not a lot of unique locations for the extensor flexor digitorum profundus, which is really, really deep. Flexor carpi ulnaris and radialis, those are coming off of the same location. So again, less details to remember as long as you grasp that concept. As far as the extensors goes, same idea. There's a mass that sits right back here that extends all of hand, wrist, fingers. So, brachialis we've talked about mid-shafted humerus, it comes down with the biceps. And again, it's isolated when we fully supinate, fully pronate, which takes some slack onto the biceps brachialis. Those three, biceps brachii, brachialis, brachyradialis, brachyradialis on the line. So biceps brachii and brachialis are musculocutaneous nerve. So if you go back to that drawing of the brachial plexus, musculocutaneous is what nerve root? Where was it on the drawing? Top, middle, or bottom? It was on the top, so it means it's C5, C6. So it's higher up, so it's innervating the muscles that are closer to the central, to the center of the body. Where's the axial skeleton? So the next one was radial. Radial nerve takes care of triceps, brachyradialis, and almost all the extensors. So radial nerve to the brachyradialis. And Conius has the radial nerve as well. So lateral epicondyle wraps around to the olecranon process. Doesn't do pronation, but it helps with extension. It assists the radius so that the rotation and pronation can occur. Musculature. You take your hand up. We're going to ignore the pinky for a second. And you place it on top of your arm. So we've got thumb, first three fingers. Your thumb is pronator teres. These two, your index finger, flexor carpi radialis. Ring finger, flexor carpi ulnaris. And then we can look at this two ways. Palmaris longus. If you remember the plantaris that some tried to forget that was even within the calf, you've got that kind of a remnant, doesn't do a whole lot. Palmaris longus is a bit like that. But it runs up the middle. So you can either think palmaris longus, or you can think flexor digitorum superficialis, which this holds as this is put up as kind of an intermediate layer. What's that?
No, it's not.
Oh. So, pronator teres is the first one. Again, it kind of runs medial to lateral so that it can then pull and pronate in. Median nerve, flexor carpi radialis and flexor carpi ulnaris. Median nerve on the flexor carpi radialis. Palmaris longus has median nerve as well. Flexor carpi ulnaris is the first tricky, and that's the ulnar nerve. There's only two muscles in the forearm that the ulnar nerve innervates. So this is the first of them. And it helps to remember that it has the name ulnaris in it. Flexuris over superficialis. Okay, so we're gonna get, that's a pretty massive muscle set. That goes to the middle phalanges. And if you actually pay attention, you'll see it. We'll talk about this a little bit later next time we get in the hand. But that tendon actually splits in half. This is the strength you have.